I'm very pleased to have Enid Mickelsen with us. And, I asked her, I said, how you doing? She goes, fine. I goes, no, really, how you doing? You're doing fine.
I am doing fine.
Yeah. Now, you have had a tough job. I was mentioning this with the governor. This isn't just about the Rules Committee. You were on the committee that selected this side of Cleveland. And I have to tell you, and I know there were some peculiar circumstances in Tampa with, hurricane and so on, but the environment here in Cleveland, the welcoming nature, the
Absolutely.
obvious versus the not so obvious security is so dramatically different here. I'm loving being here.
I'm glad to hear it. And one of the things that I hoped when we chose Cleveland was that people would be pleasantly surprised. I mean, Cleveland is the butt of a lot of jokes. They know it.
Right.
They went through a horrible economic decline in the 70s when the Rust Belt collapsed, but they've been working very hard to reclaim their city. And one of the things that we realized when we came here is that they wanted us here more than anybody else. And I compare it to the Salt Lake City Olympics,
right,
where Salt Lake wanted this. We wanted to reintroduce ourselves to the world. And Cleveland, it's been the very same thing. They have this beautiful new state-of-the-art convention center, which if you've been over to the media side,
right.
Beautiful facility. They wanted to prove to the world that they could host a world-class convention, and I think they have more than done it.
I think they have too. It's interesting because we've taken taxis and Uber drivers.
Right.
The Uber drivers love to chat, and last
Yes.
night we drove home with James, who is a native, and he is a substitute teacher and an engineer, and his father worked for 30 years in the steel mills, and boy,
Right.
was he telling me some stories about all of the automobile manufacturing plants that were here, all of the steel mills that were here, and how few are operating today. And as you mentioned, Cleveland is really in the process of a rebirth. It's going to be a totally different city than we remember back in the day.
Well, and part of it was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame locating here. Cleveland is the birthplace of rock and roll. Most people don't know that.
Charlie Freed, who used to work at KSL,
Yes.
his brother Alan Freed coined the term rock and roll. And
Exactly.
Charlie, one of our great alums at KSL, sadly he passed away years ago. He used to tell me stories about his brother and rock and roll that I loved.
And so the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is here. Every 3 years they do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony here.
Right.
They rotate between New York and Los Angeles and Cleveland. And last year I got to come and see Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr and Green Day all performing together.
Wow.
There are a lot of great things that happen here. But the people of Cleveland love their community. And they were eager to share that with people. When we were back here looking at this venue, we had a woman that I will never forget. I'd say she's in her late 30s. She walked up to us and had this beautiful smile, and she said, she looked at our tags and said, "Are you the Republicans?" And we said, "Yes." And she said, "Look, I'm a Democrat, but we really want you to come here."
Doesn't that make a difference when people really want you to come? And, you mentioned the things that are putting Cleveland on the map. I mean, I am Utah's Mr. Sports, as you well know.
Yes, yeah, well, and I'm right there with you, Doug.
As long as I have speed dial to Greg Wrubell and, people, I'm
Right.
Utah's Mr. Sports. But the Cavaliers right across the street, chance.
Well, and I have to tell you, I'm not Utah's Mrs. Sports either. I have become a Cavalier fan.
Yep.
And actually, because I'm on the committee on arrangements as well that puts this on, I was talking with our lead construction foreman and saying, I know you want them done in 4,
Yeah.
but you know what? I want them to win. And partway through, we realized it would take 7 to win. And I was here for Game 6, and the electricity in the queue. And then I was in town, but not in the queue for Game 7, because Game 7 was in California.
Right.
And I gave my daughter my ticket to the watch party. And when that buzzer went off, the horns of all the automobiles in Cleveland started honking. I looked out, people were running down to the queue in the middle of the night. I mean, I finally fell asleep at 2 a.m, and the horns were still honking. And there's a community spirit here that I've really come to love.
Well, it's fun to see one of America's truly great cities, industrial cities, Rust Belt cities, start to really come back to life. And you can hear it in the conversations that we've been having with natives of Cleveland. Enid, what about today? You know, there was a little rumble in the jungle yesterday that I'd like to.
Oh, I'd love to talk about that.
Get your take on. As a matter of fact, why don't we take? Can you stay for one more
Sure.
quick segment? Okay, we're going to wing this here for a second. I had a great conversation with Dave Clark, and we want to share that too. Coming up in just a few minutes. But Enid Mickelsen with us here at KSL News Radio, and of course the Rules Committee, and she was on the Selection Committee, and she is our National Committee woman, and. You know, your Republican credentials go pretty deep.
It's been a lot of years, and I didn't run for committee woman again. This is kind of my
This is Swan Song?
farewell appearance. Yeah.
Oh, you're kind of like the Ghostbusters for me. Who are you going to call? I call Enid. So, you know, I'll still be calling you. Let's take a break. We're going to come right back with more of the Doug Wright Show, coming to you live from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland.